You ever have one of those moments where you know you'll be called the villain no matter what you do? That's me. Right now. Writing this with shaking hands and a glass of wine that's way too full. This all exploded 4 days ago. But the bomb has been ticking for months. Maybe years. My younger sister Claire, 23F, moved in with me, 28F, and my fiancé Evan, 30M. About 7 months ago after she lost her job and her lease at the same time. I didn't hesitate. She's my baby sister. I practically raised her after our dad dipped and our mom worked 2 jobs. Claire's always had a flair for drama, the main character type. But she's family. And Evan was fine with her staying temporarily. Well, temporarily turned into 7 months. And during that time, Claire went from quirky and charming to straight-up manipulative. She started inserting herself into our relationship, commenting on our sex life, hinting that Evan was too hot to be loyal, joking that if she were me, she'd keep him on a tighter leash. Red flags, right? I brushed them off. She's just young, immature, whatever. But last weekend, something happened that I can't unsee, can't unhear. And now, Claire's gone. My mom is furious. Evan's sleeping in the guest room. And everyone thinks I overreacted. Did I? It started with a girls' night that never happened. Claire told me she had planned something special for the 2 of us, wine, face masks, some dumb Netflix dating show we always watched growing up. I hadn't seen her trying to bond with me in weeks, so I was actually excited. I even cut work early and brought home takeout from her favorite Thai place. When I got home, the living room was dark. No candles, no wine, no Claire. But Evan was there, alone, sitting on the couch looking like a deer caught in headlights. I asked where Claire was. He looked off, twitchy, said she had gone upstairs to change and would be down soon. But she never came down. That's when I noticed Evan's shirt was buttoned wrong, like he had thrown it on in a rush. And his hair was wet, even though he hadn't showered when I left earlier. I got this pit in my stomach. Something felt wrong. I walked upstairs. The door to the guest room, which Claire had been using, was cracked open, and I could hear her talking on the phone. She was laughing. I pushed the door gently open. She didn't hear me, and what I heard next made my blood run cold. She was talking to her best friend on speaker, loud and clear. I'll never forget her exact words. He totally fell for it. I told you he would. I wore that lace robe she hates. You should have seen his face when I walked in. He looked like he was gonna pass out. I mean, he didn't do anything, but the way he looked at me, like game over. I win. I froze. Then she laughed again and said, "She's so naive. I just needed to prove it. I told you all guys cheat, even Evan." I stepped into the room and she jumped about a foot in the air. The look on her face, guilty, but also smug. Like she wanted me to hear. I didn't say a word, just walked out, went downstairs, looked Evan dead in the eye and said, "You have 10 seconds to tell me what happened, or she will." His face went pale. Evan didn't speak for the first 5 seconds. He just sat there, mouth opening and closing, like he was trying to find the least damaging version of the truth. Finally, he said, "She came into the bathroom while I was shaving, in that robe. I told her to get out. I didn't touch her. I didn't say anything. I just froze." I asked, "Did you want her to leave? Or did you enjoy it?" He hesitated. Too long. And that hesitation, that was louder than a confession. "I didn't want it," he said eventually. "But it caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting it. And for a second, yeah, I was stunned. It was like a car crash in slow motion. So now I was the fiancé with a spineless partner and a manipulative sister who thought my life was a game. I went back upstairs, told Claire to pack her things, and gave her 2 hours to get out. She laughed, said, "Oh, so now you're mad at me? Not your cheating man? Wow, women really are pick mes." I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just said, "You tested him. You wanted him to fail. That says more about you than it ever could about him." Her reply, "I just wanted to know what kind of man he is. Turns out he's just like the rest." She didn't deny it, didn't apologize, She left 3 hours later after trashing the guest room, flipping over a laundry basket, and accidentally breaking my favorite mug. My mom called me that night, screaming down the phone, saying, "You threw out your sister over a man?" She says Claire was just looking out for me, that she was worried about Evan's loyalty, that maybe I should be thanking her for exposing him. I hung up. Now, no one in my family is speaking to me, except my brother, who's 1,000 miles away and thinks I should burn it all down. Evan is trying to patch things up. He swears he was just blindsided and that he didn't reciprocate anything. He says it was a trap and he walked right into it but didn't fall. But the trust, the safety I once felt, it's gone. So now I'm here, with a silent phone, a quiet house, and a relationship hanging by a thread. Am I the asshole? The next morning, I woke up to over a dozen missed calls from family. Not because they were worried about me, oh no, but because Claire had posted a sob story on Facebook. She said she'd been kicked out by her sister for trying to protect her, and was now essentially homeless. She didn't mention the part where she tried to seduce my fiancé in a lace robe. Just painted herself as this brave truth-teller, victimized for speaking up, and people bought it. Comments like, "You're such a strong woman. She'll understand one day. I can't believe your sister chose a man over you. Disgusting. You'll land on your feet, girl. Karma's real." I wanted to scream, but I didn't respond. I didn't want to air my dirty laundry online. Then she posted a screenshot of a text from me, cropped, of course, where I said, "You're poison. I never want to see you again." Out of context, it looked cruel. In context, it was after she admitted to manipulating Evan as a test. My cousin DM'd me and asked if I'd really kicked Claire out over jealousy. Jealousy? Of what? Her ability to play mind games and weaponize trauma? And Evan? He's been walking on eggshells, trying to act like the voice of reason, offering to explain everything to my mom, to help fix things with Claire, to prove he's not like that. But here's the thing. If you really weren't like that, would you have frozen? Would you have even looked at her in that robe long enough to be shocked? I asked him straight up, "If I hadn't come home early, would you have told me?" He looked down, whispered, "Probably not. I didn't want to hurt you." That answer broke something in me. I told him I needed space. He moved into the guest room. Again. So now the man I was supposed to marry sleeps in the room that used to be my sister's. The bed where she schemed. The space that still smells like her coconut shampoo. And me? I sleep alone. In a king-sized bed. In silence. But the questions won't leave. Did I overreact? Did I give up on blood too quickly? Did I make a villain out of someone who just wanted to protect me? Or am I finally seeing the truth that's been there all along? 2 days after Claire left, I got a knock at my door. It was my mom. No warning. No text. No, "Can we talk?" Just her standing there with this look of determined pity like I was a toddler who needed scolding. She didn't even wait to be invited in. She pushed past me, marched into the kitchen, and started lecturing me like I was 16 again. Claire's couch surfing. She's emotionally wrecked. All because you can't handle the truth about your fiancé. I stayed quiet. Then she hit me with it. She did what she did because she loves you. I lost it. I slammed the coffee mug I was holding onto the counter. Not hard enough to break it, just hard enough to make her flinch. No. She did what she did because she loves being the center of attention. Because she doesn't care who she hurts as long as she gets to be the victim. My mom blinked, stunned. Then her eyes narrowed. "You've always been jealous of Claire." That one sentence felt like a sucker punch to the chest. Not hurtful. Not offensive. Just familiar. Clicked. That was always the narrative, wasn't it? Claire was the pretty one. The fragile one. The charming one. I was the strong one. The stoic one. The one expected to just deal with everything and never break. When Dad left, I held the family together while Claire cried herself to sleep. When Mom worked late, I made dinner and helped Claire with homework. When Claire dated toxic guys in college and called me crying, I Venmo'd her money and told her she deserved better. But me? No one ever protected me. Not once. So I looked my mother in the eye and said, "She didn't test Evan. She tested me. And I failed because I let her stay in my home, let her infect my relationship, and still tried to protect her." She didn't say another word. Just left. Quietly. Later that night, I got a group text from my aunt asking if we could do a family Zoom to heal. I declined. And Evan? He's still in the guest room. Still texting me memes like nothing's changed. Still offering to talk whenever I'm ready. But the silence between us says more than any conversation could. That night, I did something I hadn't done in months. I opened Evan's phone. Before you say anything, no, I don't normally snoop. I hate that I even felt the need. But after everything, after the robe, the hesitation, I probably wouldn't have told you, my gut screamed for answers. His password hadn't changed. Same one he'd always used. The name of his childhood dog and his favorite number. Cute, right? I didn't even know what I was looking for. Proof that he did want Claire? That he wasn't as innocent as he claimed? Or worse, that this wasn't the first time? I opened his messages first. Nothing. Just boring, regular stuff. Group chats. Work. A few convos with his brother about fantasy football. My name sprinkled throughout. Mostly, she's still not talking to me. And I don't blame her. But then, I opened his photos. There were no photos of Claire. But there was a screen recording. Less than a minute long. Taken 2 days before everything blew up. I pressed play. It was his camera roll scrolling through Instagram stories. One of them was Claire's. In it, she was wearing that same lace robe. Filming in the mirror. Twirling. Captioned, "Just because it's raining doesn't mean I can't bring the heat, fire, kiss mark, #self-care. He paused on it. Zoomed in. Then quickly swiped away. I watched that video 5 times. Trying to figure out what it meant. Why he recorded that. Why he saved her. Was he just trying to keep proof? Was it for me in case something happened? Or was it something else? I confronted him that night. Calmly. "Why did you screen record Claire's story?" He froze. Then, "I didn't know what she was doing. I was going to show you. But then everything blew up." I asked him why he hadn't. He looked down and muttered, "Because I didn't want to add fuel to the fire." That was the first time I really, truly looked at him since it all happened. And I saw it in his eyes. Guilt. Not because he cheated, but because part of him had liked the attention. And hated himself for it. He said, "I didn't ask for it. But I didn't stop it fast enough either." And that, right there, was the real betrayal. Not action. Not infidelity. But passivity. Letting it happen. Letting it hang in the air. Letting me walk into a situation where he had already lost control. And now, I don't know which of them I'm more hurt by. I spent the next day spiraling. Not crying. I wish it was crying. Crying means release. Closure. What I felt was worse. A dull, nauseating ache in the middle of my chest that wouldn't go away. Couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. I couldn't think without my mind going to that robe. That Instagram story. That pause on the screen recording. His hesitation. Her smug voice. My mom's face. I kept asking myself the same question. If Claire hadn't tried it, would I still think Evan was loyal? Because that's the twist in all this. I didn't doubt him before. Before the test, I thought Evan was rock solid. The calm to my chaos. My safe space. We were planning a wedding. Picking color palettes. Dreaming about where we'd live next. And now I didn't even know if I wanted to be in the same room with him. I went for a long walk just to get out of the house. It was one of those overcast, sticky August days where everything feels like it's holding its breath. Halfway through the walk, I sat on a park bench and checked my phone. A text from my brother popped up. Finally. Saw Claire's post. Want me to call her out? He was the only one in the family who hadn't taken her side blindly. And while I appreciated the support, I told him no. I didn't want a war. I wanted peace. But peace apparently wasn't on the table, because 5 minutes later, I got another message. From Claire. "So you're snooping now? Evan told me you went through his phone." Yikes. I stared at the screen, stunned. Not because she was smug, of course she was, Not because she knew, Evan had obviously told her, but because she had the audacity to message me after everything. I didn't reply. Then she sent a second message. Look, I didn't want it to go this far, but maybe it's better this way. At least now you know what kind of man he really is. That's when it hit me. This was never about Evan. It was about control. Claire wanted to feel powerful. She wanted me to doubt, to lose something, maybe even to grieve something so she wouldn't be the only one who had nothing. She wasn't trying to warn me. She was trying to break me. And the worst part? It was working. That night I finally broke down. I curled up on the couch in an old hoodie, my phone face down, TV on low, pretending to watch a baking show but not registering a single word. Just white noise to drown out the buzzing in my brain. Evan came out of the guest room quietly, holding a mug of chamomile tea. He didn't say anything, just placed it gently on the coffee table in front of me and sat on the far end of the couch, like a roommate afraid to disturb the atmosphere. I didn't look at him, but I could feel him watching me. After a few minutes of silence, he finally spoke. I don't know how to fix this. I said nothing. I know I messed up. I should have said something the second she started acting weird. I should have told you about the robe. The story. All of it. Still, I said nothing. Then he said something that made my throat close up. You always saw the best in people, even when they didn't deserve it, especially your family. I didn't want to be the one to make you see them differently. That was the first time I looked at him. Because damn it, he wasn't wrong. I'd spent years making excuses for Claire. Years protecting her, shielding her from consequences, smoothing things over when she acted out. I wore the older sister role like armor, even when she didn't deserve it. But this wasn't some tantrum or petty fight. This was calculated. Evan looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. And I realized I wasn't the only one hurting. He'd been tiptoeing around me, afraid of making it worse, but suffering too. I didn't cheat, he said softly, but I didn't protect you either. And I don't know how to forgive myself for that. That line hit harder than I expected, because I realized I was waiting for exactly that. Not denial, not anger, not some defensive rant about how I was overreacting. Just accountability. And now that I had it, I didn't know what to do. I wanted to scream, hug him, hit a pillow, fall asleep in his arms, kick him out. I wanted everything, but I did the one thing I hadn't done since this all began. I cried, and he didn't move closer, didn't try to fix it. He just sat there, quietly, and let me feel it. The next morning, I woke up on the couch with a blanket draped over me and the tea, now cold, still on the table. Evan was already gone, or at least not in sight, but he'd left a note. Gone for a run. Not running away. Just need to think. Back soon. Short. Simple. Honest. I stared at it for a while, letting the words sink in. For the first time in days I felt still. Not better but not spinning. I spent the morning deep cleaning. Scrubbing the kitchen, wiping down the guest room, erasing the scent of Claire's shampoo, the mess she left behind. It wasn't about cleanliness. It was about control, reclaiming something. While cleaning under the guest bed, I found a small notebook wedged against the wall. Claire's. It was pink with little sticker remnants on the front, the kind she used to decorate with when we were kids. I don't even know why I opened it. Maybe I wanted answers. Maybe I wanted proof that somewhere, deep down, she regretted what she did. Instead, I found something worse. A list, titled, Things to Say If She Finds Out. Underneath were bullet points like talking points. I was just trying to protect you. You don't see how manipulative he really is. I did it out of love. You've always chosen guys over me. Maybe you're just afraid I'm right. And then, at the bottom, if it backfires, flip the script. Cry. Say she kicked me out with nowhere to go. I felt like I'd swallowed glass. This wasn't some impulsive, emotional outburst. This wasn't her just being concerned. This was a strategy. Plan. Claire intended to blow up my life and made contingency notes in case she got caught. This was manipulation on a level I hadn't dared to imagine. She expected me to find out. maybe even wanted it. Because then, she got to play her favorite role, the misunderstood martyr. I took a photo of the page, just in case. Then I closed the notebook, sat back on the floor, and started laughing. Not because it was funny, but because it was insane. I had let this girl into my home, my relationship, my heart, and she weaponized it all like it was a game. When Evan came back from his run, I was sitting at the kitchen table with the notebook open in front of me. I didn't say anything. I just slid it across the table. He read the title of the page, Things to Say If She Finds Out, and immediately stopped. He didn't ask where I got it. Didn't ask if it was real. Just stared at it, jaw tight, face pale. After a moment, he looked at me and said, "She planned the whole thing." Not a question. A fact. I nodded. We sat in silence again, but this time it was heavier. Not from confusion, but from clarity. There was no more wondering, no more doubting, no more space for guilt or rationalizing or maybe she meant well. Claire hadn't been trying to test Evan's loyalty. She wasn't trying to protect me. She was trying to tear us apart on purpose. And the scariest part? She almost succeeded. "What do we do now?" Evan finally asked. I didn't have a clean answer. So instead, I asked him the question I'd been avoiding all along. If she had kissed you, would you have kissed her back? He didn't answer right away. His face twisted, like the truth was too painful to even touch. Then he said quietly, "I don't know." And that honesty, it hurt more than a yes or no ever could. Because I don't know means maybe. It means there was a moment, no matter how fleeting, where temptation lived. But part of me appreciated that answer more than a lie. He was owning it, every flawed human inch of it. I stood up and said, "I need time, not space, not a break, just time." He nodded. No protests, no tears, no empty promises, just understanding. That night I called my brother. I told him everything. About the robe, the Instagram story, the notebook, the plan. The way Claire spun everyone into thinking she was the victim. He didn't say, "I told you so." He just said, "Whatever you do next, I've got your back." And that was the first time in days I felt like someone was actually on my side. The next few days were a blur. I didn't see Evan much. He was giving me the space I asked for, but it felt strange, like we were both waiting for something to happen, but neither of us knew what. He stayed in the guest room, but we still ate meals together. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't warm. It was just functional. I'd never felt so alone with someone in my life. And then there was Claire. Every day, more people reached out to me about her posts. I'd get texts from friends who didn't know the full story but were worried about her, asking if I was okay, if I'd seen her latest Instagram post, the one with the "poor me" caption. The one where she framed everything like she was the one who'd been hurt. I couldn't stomach it. I had a few choice words in mind, a few snappy comebacks. But I didn't respond to anyone. Not because I didn't want to, but because I knew that the more I talked, the more this would get dragged out. And she would win. Instead, I kept the note Claire had written. The one with her manipulative little strategy. I told myself I wasn't going to keep it forever. It was just a reminder of the truth I was holding on to. That truth? Claire was no longer my sister. She was someone who used me, who used my relationship, and thought she could break me for sport. And Evan? I still didn't know what I wanted from him. I didn't know what was next for us. All I knew was that the healing process would take time. But this, the mess Claire created, it was something that wouldn't be easily erased. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through social media one afternoon, when I saw something that made my stomach flip. It was a post from Claire. A selfie of her smiling, captioned, "Sometimes you just have to let go of what's toxic. It's not worth it to stay around people who don't support you. I'm finally free." Free? Free from me? Free from the relationship I spent years building? I felt my blood pressure spike. I couldn't do this. I couldn't keep playing her game. I couldn't let her rewrite this story like she was the hero. So, I did something I'd been avoiding for days. I called my mom. "I'm done." It was all I said when she picked up. I'm done with Claire. I'm done with pretending that she's the victim. My mom didn't say anything at first. She didn't try to guilt me or twist my words. She just let the silence settle. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt a weight lift. After I hung up with my mom, something in me shifted. I had finally said it out loud. I was done. Done with Claire's manipulation. Done with trying to make sense of a situation that had no sense to it. But the weight of the decision still loomed over me. I spent the rest of the day doing small, routine things to keep my mind occupied. A grocery run, sorting through the pile of mail, cleaning out old email accounts. Yet I kept coming back to one question. What now? With Claire gone from the house, there was a certain emptiness. It wasn't the good kind of quiet, the kind where you finally feel at peace. It was the kind where you realize how much damage has been done, how many cracks you've been ignoring in the foundation. Evan was still in the guest room. Every time I passed by it, I had a pang of uncertainty. It wasn't a should I forgive him moment. It was more like, where do we go from here? We hadn't spoken about anything beyond the initial confrontation. Not really. Not deeply. So I decided we needed to talk. That evening, after dinner, I asked him to meet me in the living room. He looked at me with a mixture of hope and fear, like he was waiting for me to drop the hammer. I took a deep breath. We need to figure out what this relationship is now. What we are now. He nodded. And for the first time, I didn't see him as just my fiancé. I saw him as someone I didn't quite know anymore. I get it, he said softly. I've screwed up. And I know I hurt you. More than I ever thought I could. But I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I'll do whatever it takes. I felt that familiar ache in my chest again. The one I'd been trying to push away. The one that whispered, you deserve better. But then I looked at him. Really looked at him. And I saw the person who had apologized. The person who was willing to change. Not just for me, but for us. But the question lingered. Did I want to continue this? I stood up and walked to the window, staring out into the dark. The house felt too still. Too full of memories of everything that had happened in the last week. I turned back to him. I don't know if I can forgive you, Evan. His face fell. But I also don't want to lose you. I need time to figure out what's right for me. What's right for us. He nodded, understanding. I can wait. I'm here. Whenever you're ready. And there it was. A shift. Not a resolution. Not a definitive answer. But a start. The days following our conversation felt like a slow-moving river. Not peaceful, but steady. Just the constant pull of time passing. Evan kept his distance, but it wasn't a cold distance. It was a respectful one, where he was there if I needed him, but he gave me space to think, to breathe. We didn't talk much. There was no pressure. It was the quietest we'd ever been. But somehow the quiet was different than before. Felt like a pause, not an ending. Claire still hadn't contacted me directly since her last cryptic post, and I had no intention of reaching out to her. Part of me thought about calling her, confronting her, demanding answers, but I knew what would happen. She'd twist it, play the victim again, and I didn't have the energy for another battle. What I did have energy for was figuring out who I was now. Without Claire's drama. Without Evan's mistakes hanging over my head. Just me. I decided to take the weekend off work. Just for me. I spent hours at a local cafe, journaling, drinking too much coffee, and reconnecting with my own thoughts. It had been so long since I'd allowed myself to just be. To exist without the weight of other people's problems. The most important realization that came out of that weekend? I didn't need Claire. Not the way I'd thought. Not the way I'd sacrificed myself over the years to protect her. To coddle her. To keep her from feeling abandoned. It was a realization that felt like a weight lifting off my chest. When I got home, Evan was in the kitchen cooking dinner. He didn't look up when I walked in, but I could feel the energy between us shift. It wasn't the tension from before. It wasn't even the fragile hope of a new beginning. It was calm. He was making my favorite dish. The one we used to cook together on quiet Sundays, the one that felt like home. I didn't say anything at first. Just walked up to him, stood beside him, and watched him stir the pot. Finally, I spoke. I need to make a decision, not just for us, but for me. Evan set the spoon down and looked at me, his face unreadable. I'm listening, he said quietly. I took a deep breath. I think I can forgive you, but it's going to take time. I can't just jump back into this, pretending everything's okay. We need to rebuild. From the ground up. He didn't interrupt, just nodded as if he already knew that, like he had been waiting for me to find my way back to this moment. I'll wait, he said, a hint of relief in his voice. Whatever it takes, I'm here. And in that moment, I realized something. There would always be a scar, a reminder of what had happened. But it wasn't the scar that mattered. It was the healing, the growth, the fact that we could both rebuild from the rubble if we were willing to put in the effort. So we started again, not with promises, not with grand gestures, but with patience, understanding, and most importantly, time. The weeks that followed weren't easy, but they were necessary. I'd like to say everything got better right away, that I magically forgave Evan and all was well in the world. But it wasn't like that. Not by a long shot. Trust doesn't just magically reappear overnight, and neither did the bond that had been strained between us. But we tried. We made an effort every single day. Small things like helping each other cook dinner, sitting in silence together on the couch, taking walks in the evenings. It wasn't about grand apologies or trying to erase what had happened. It was about being there for each other, without the weight of expectations. I didn't rush things with Evan, but I also didn't shut him out. I let myself feel the discomfort, the unease. The truth was that I needed this time, not to get over what had happened, but to figure out what it all meant for me. And the most important thing I realized during this time, I wasn't just healing from what Claire had done. I was healing from how I'd let myself become entangled in her chaos. I'd spent so many years trying to protect her, trying to be the one who kept the peace, that I'd lost sight of my own needs, my own boundaries, my own happiness. I realized I didn't need Claire to validate me anymore, that I could walk away from her drama without feeling guilty. And if she wasn't willing to change, then that was her choice, not mine. It wasn't about abandoning her. It was about protecting myself. One night, about a month after everything had blown over, Evan and I sat down to talk again. It was a casual dinner, just the two of us, but there was an underlying tension, one that felt more like hope than fear. We were finally starting to build something again, slowly but surely. Evan asked me the one question I had been expecting. Do you think we can ever go back to what we were, before all of this? I thought about it for a long time, because I didn't know the answer. Maybe we could. Maybe we couldn't. But what mattered was that I was willing to try. Willing to see where this would take us without rushing, without forcing anything. I don't think we'll go back, I said, my voice steady. But I think we can move forward. Together. In a different way. He smiled. That's all I need. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in so long. Peace. Not the fake kind that comes from ignoring problems, but the real kind. The kind that comes when you face the hard stuff, deal with it, and still find the strength to move forward. A few months have passed since the night Evan and I had that conversation. And while we still have our rough days, days when trust feels like a fragile thing, days when memories of what happened creep back into our minds, we've made it. We've made it through the mess, through the hurt, through the doubts. And we've come out stronger. Not just as a couple, but as individuals. Evan and I are still figuring things out one step at a time. Some days are better than others. But there's no pressure, no rushing. Just two people working to rebuild what was lost, and trying to build something better from the ground up. As for Claire, I haven't spoken to her since that night she left. She's reached out a couple of times, trying to make amends, but I've kept my distance. I've learned that not all relationships are meant to be salvaged. Some people simply aren't ready to change, and that's not my burden to carry anymore. I finally stopped feeling guilty about choosing myself over her. I finally stopped feeling like I had to be the one to fix everything. Because the truth is, sometimes fixing yourself means letting go of toxic people, no matter how much you love them. There are still days when I think about what could have been, about how different things might have been if Claire hadn't tested Evan, if she hadn't tried to tear everything apart. But those thoughts are less frequent now. The scar is still there, but it doesn't ache like it used to. And as for Evan and I, we're starting over. In our own way, we've spent weekends talking, reconnecting. We're planning our wedding, not in a rush, but with a new understanding of what it means to commit to each other. So, to anyone who's reading this, if you're facing betrayal, manipulation, or family drama, take it one step at a time. Trust yourself enough to know when to fight and when to walk away. Healing takes time, and not every relationship is worth saving. But the ones that are, they'll be stronger for it. I'm not sure what the future holds, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm heading in the right direction.